Any outline development plan in the district plan can only be amended by plan change. So if someone applied, taking the Belfast example, the developer could decide that the alignment of the road that runs through that zone is different to what's shown on the outline development plan and apply for resource consent to do that.
Yep.
But what we're saying is that resource consent to shift the alignment of that road doesn't affect parties other than the landowners within that area.
Yep. I perfectly understand that.
Yep.
And I encourage you all to think about what happened with Noble, where there was a whole issue about the road layout being changed, and the neighbouring people were really upset because it wasn't publicly notified and it impacted on them, not in that specific development, but further up the road to an adjacent development. So if those people adjacent to those areas are now excluded from being able to participate, when things are changed, it seems like a real gap. But I mean, I think I was really trying to, when I read through all the reasons that have been provided, there's a kind of general theme through this submission that supports the Minister's statement of expectations, which I personally feel very uncomfortable about. And there's a number of other examples.
We made a decision that
here.
we would reference the statement of expectations as we're legally required to do.
Well,
We made a decision to reference the statement of
did.
expectations
when was that?
There's really
at the meeting.
Sorry. There's really three reasons why we're putting forward these amendments. One is that there is those statements of expectations that we reduce notification requirements. There's also in the current operative city plan these provisions which precludes notification or written approvals, and to now remove that to open up the ability to notify an application really goes down the path of increasing potentially the notification requirements or leading to more applications being notified. And the third reason is that looking through these rules, for instance, road setback, we don't consider there to be affected persons other than where it's opposite a residential zone. So taking Ferrymead for example, there's a setback required of 10 metres from the road front. Now, across the road, you've got commercial and industrial, most of it's industrial zoned land, and notwithstanding some of it being occupied by commercial activities, but we don't consider that an application that of a building intruding into that 10 metre setback should be notified to a wider area.
I mean, I don't know, maybe I just vote against this whole thing, but you know, if you took Ferrymead as a really good example, the local community and the people that use that area, it's got poor pedestrian amenity, poor cyclist amenity, it's got, you know, it's really not a showcase of a modern development in terms of access, in terms of amenity. It's the exact reason why people get upset when they see a nice plan when it goes through a plan change, or an outline development plan when it goes through a consent, and then all those things that, you know, try and provide some balance to the use of that space for the community are done away with without any notification. People get quite upset. So, you know, I mean, yeah, I guess that's the kind of thrust of our submission is if it's your private property, do what you like, and regardless of the effects on other people outside of your private property, those people don't have rights to be notified or involved. And I mean, I fundamentally disagree with that. So maybe it's best I just vote against it.
Well, I mean, is there an argument that that there may be landowners affected by a change to an ODP that are not within the ODP area, as in the people that lived above the Noble subdivision?
In circumstances where an outline development plan specified the distance, for instance, that a building should be set back from the boundary of that adjoining neighbour, then yes. But these outline development plans for Belfast, for Ferrymead, for North Hallswell don't go into that detail and don't specify those matters. They're concerned with the location of public transport facilities, they're concerned with the location of a main road through that zone, that in some cases specify the location of stormwater facilities, but if we felt that there were affected persons outside the boundaries of these ODPs, we certainly wouldn't be putting these amendments forward to you.
Right, thank you.
Madam Chair, may I also say that These submissions relate only to the 3 outline development plans in the commercial chapter. There is another chapter coming to you in stage 2 regarding future urban development areas,
Yeah.
and there are much stricter, stronger rules in there to support the outline development plan, and that might be of more concern, I think, when it comes to you in stage 2.
So are there any other questions that people have? Have you got many more? Because I might break for morning tea and you could give a list of questions to staff and that might hurry up the process.
I just wanted to get a kind of sense. I note in here that you've added Wrights Road in, which was something we actively talked about and discounted, to the office parks.
Which one?
Page 155. So that's quite a significant change. So I wanted to kind of understand, the significance of the submission in terms of changes that are being made. It does seem quite dramatic.
Which one are you referring to?
Amend the policy to correct zoning change sought by the council to map 38,
Top of
which
the page.
rezones land fronting Wrights Road on the northern edge of Addington Raceway.
Yeah.
Avoid the development of new office parks, blah, 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 and add Wrights Road after Show Place. So we had that discussion as a council. We ruled that out, but now you're saying we should put it back in. So I'm just trying to understand how many other issues have we discussed that we've taken a position that you're now changing through the submission process.
I think if I take you to page 167, which shows the map of the area. On that plan, there's a large red circle. Wrights Road is the road with an orange line on it, which continues then in the southeast direction. And the grey area on that map is the Addington Raceway. Now, on the north side of Addington Raceway, there's land that's currently zoned in the operative city plan as open space. And over recent years, that area has developed really as offices. And what we're putting forward in the submission now is that the planning map should be corrected to reflect what is developed on that site and to zone it as an industrial office zone in the same way that we've zoned Hazeldean Business Park, the same way we've zoned Show Place. So to recognise the existing area that's developed for offices, but not to allow for further extension of that office development around the edge of the Addington Raceway.
I understand what you're trying to do. In fact, I was the councillor at the 6 months ago or 3 months ago that said, why isn't this included? But we made a conscious decision not to include it. We were told that they could apply for existing use rights because it had been subject to a private plan change. So what I'm trying to understand is how many other things are in here that we have made conscious decisions not to do that are now you're asking us to change our mind on.
From memory, that discussion we had several months ago was about the industrial zone land further to the south along Wrights Road, and the fact that there'd been for a recent plan change to zone it industrial, which permits offices, and they haven't yet developed that land, and the discussion was whether that should be, we should in fact provide for office use within areas that have been for a recent plan change. Correct me if I'm wrong.
In response to your question, officers have not undertaken to undermine any of the decisions that were made. That by far the majority of the submissions are corrections or clarifications, and much of it was signed off on the 15th of August when the council signed off the plan to go through for notification. And that's why I've written, though, in 4.3 of the report, the 9 more significant submissions that there are. Whether or not you want to go through those, Madam Chair, is up to you. But certainly the majority of all of these submissions are technical and of either correction or clarification nature.
So are there other ones that you want to raise, or?
I just have a general concern. There's some specifics around Kenaway and a number of other things in here, but...
Well, is it worthwhile breaking for our morning tea and you can have a chat to staff?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I still don't... I think it's hard. I was hoping we'd have a workshop on this because it is quite detailed.
Actually, it was on the agenda for the council meeting last week.
Yeah.
and people have had a whole week to raise these issues. You know, it's fine to suggest a workshop now, but it's too late.
Last week was a workshop, but that's okay.
No, we didn't. We asked for it to be delayed until this extraordinary meeting because people had only received the information the day before and hadn't had time to absorb it. So, well, why don't we break for a morning tea and we'll come back and deal with it after that. So we'll resume at 11:15. Thanks.